Dominance of the New World has changed throughout the period, but the national governments remained monarchical and mercantilistic. During the first period, governments in Europe were monarchies. People did not have any say in government or politics. Colonies in the New Worlds were still ruled by their king from the mother country. Not much regarding government would change in this period. Mercantilism was a big reason for establishing the colonies, since the colonies brought wealth and power to the mother country. Spain had dominated American colonization, which in turn turned their mother country into an empire. Columbus's discovery of the New World allowed Spain to make first claims and assert their power early. Yet towards the end of the period, the defeat of the Spanish Armada marked their decline as Britain took the scene. Dominance had shifted between the two nations, and afterwards, Britain would create an empire out of their claims.
In 1607, Britain established its first permanent colony, Jamestown. Jamestown was founded by the Virginia Company, a joint stock enterprise in search of profit. America continued its shift from French and Spanish colonization as Britain established more colonies, such as Plymouth and Massachusetts Bay. In some cases, like with Plymouth, religious groups moved to America to escape persecution. Even though new colonies were developing, they were all still ruled over by an English monarch. However, some colonies started their own theocracies. Puritan refugees that settled Plymouth first created the Mayflower Compact before landing. They agreed to abide by laws created by leaders that they chose. Quote, "For better ordering and preservation and furtherance of the ends aforesaid, and by virtue hereof to enact, constitute, and frame such just and equal laws, ordinances, acts, constitutions, and offices from time to time, as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, until which we promise all due submission and obedience." End quote. After about 80 years of colonization, to reassert his monarchical power, King James II combined all of the American colonies into the Dominion of New England, which removed all elected authorities and replaced them with an appointed royal governor named Sir Edmund Andros. Shortly after its creation, the Dominion of New England was overthrown through the means of the Glorious Revolution, a bloodless revolt in which the colonists removed Governor Andros and the colonies reverted to their former status. The Glorious Revolution led to the creation of the Bill of Rights and the Act of Toleration, which limited the power of the monarch, and it set a precedent for rebelling against a monarch. Later, the English philosopher John Locke published 2 treatises on government, in which he spoke out against the idea of the divine right of kings to govern with absolute power. Quote, "Men being, as has been said by nature, all free, equal, and independent, no one can be put out of this estate, and subjected to the political power of another, without his own consent. The only way whereby any one divests himself of his natural liberty and puts on the bonds of civil society is by agreeing with other men to join and unite into a community." End quote. Ultimately, within this period of time, the colonies were continuously ruled over by a monarch, but the idea of revolution was explored by the colonists as self-governing theocracies and elected authorities began to pop up throughout the period, leading to a big change later on down the line.
The British continued the idea of government based on mercantilism. However, they used a policy of salutary neglect, which freed the colonies from British taxes and allowed them to create their own kinds of government. After the French and Indian War, the British started taxing the colonies more, and that irritated them. What also bothered them was that the British made the proclamation of 1763, keeping colonies from moving west. After a taste of freedom, the colonists were unwilling to return as merely money makers for the British, and after the events of Lexington and Concord, America broke ties with England, saying, "Governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and institute new government." After the Treaty of Paris of 1783, that ended the Revolutionary War, the new country used the Articles of Confederation as a constitution, but the central government proved to be too weak, as shown in Shays' Rebellion. The Constitution was written in its stead and limited the power of national government by dividing it into 3 sections. The Constitution also limits how long someone can be in office. It states that the president shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, with the vice president for the same term as follows. During the election of 1800, the United States saw a transition of power from Federalists to Democrat Republicans as Thomas Jefferson swore into office. Throughout these times, national government was always present in some kind of form. During the periods, national government started as distant from the colonies and sought to use them to make money to benefit the motherland. But after loosening their grip on the colonies made their own national government to benefit themselves. Throughout these times, power in the central government never stayed in the hands of a faction, whether it may be the Spanish, French, English, or Federalists. People in power were always bound to change.